I woke up knowing three things. First, my surname was Shin. Second, the Shin family was the wealthiest household in the capital. Third, this body had known the neglected prince since childhood. I am bound to a system that assigns tasks, opens worlds, and waits for results. This is called quick transmigration. I enter different lives, different bodies, different stories. My role changes every time, but my objective does not. Help the designated ML reach the highest point of his world. A future he cannot obtain alone. I provide resources, guidance, protection. I remove obstacles, and the system will make me leave the world when the goal is achieved. Gold-threaded curtains hung beside the bed, faint incense lingering in the air. A servant knelt at once when I opened my eyes. "Young master, you're awake." I let my gaze settle before answering. "What time is it?" "Just past the Chin hour. Breakfast is ready." His voice was careful. Everyone in this household was careful around me. Shin Yen, only son of the Shin family, future head of an empire of silver and grain. A name that opened doors without knocking. As I sat up, memories settled cleanly into place, like a ledger balanced after a long night. This world was familiar, a dynasty at its peak, rot hidden beneath silk, princes fighting in silence, ministers smiling with knives behind their sleeves, and one prince no one bothered to notice. "Prepare the carriage, we're going to the cold palace," I said. The servant froze. "Young master." I said prepare it. He didn't ask again. The cold palace lived up to its name. The closer we drew, the quieter the path became. Snow had piled along the edges of the stone road, untouched. No one came here unless ordered. The guards at the gate straightened when they saw the Shin family crest. "Young Master Shin." I nodded and walked past them. Inside, the courtyard was bare. No decorations, no laughter, just a thin figure standing under the eaves, hands tucked into sleeves that were too light for winter. Li Jing. He turned when he heard footsteps, eyes sharpening out of habit before softening in recognition. "Ah Yen." He still called me that. No honorifics, no distance. "Your Highness," I said, bowing properly. He frowned. "You don't have to. Rules are rules, even here," I replied calmly. He didn't argue, just stepped aside to let me in. The room was cold. The brazier was empty. I glanced at it. Why wasn't this lit? Li Jing smiled faintly. "The charcoal delivery hasn't come this month." I didn't comment. I took off my outer cloak and handed it to him. "Wear this." His hands hesitated. "You'll be cold." "I won't, the carriage is warm," I said. That was true. So was the unspoken part. I could afford 10,000 cloaks like this. He could not. He accepted it in silence. We sat across from each other at a low table. Servants brought in food I had ordered from home. Steaming rice, meat, a small pot of soup. Li Jing stared at it for a long moment. "You didn't have to bring this much," he said. "You need it, you're still growing," I replied. He laughed softly. "At this age?" I didn't smile. "Eat," I said. He did. He ate carefully at first, then faster, like someone afraid the food might vanish if he slowed down. I poured tea and watched the steam rise. This was the third time this month I'd come. Not out of sentiment. Not nostalgia. This prince would one day sit on the dragon throne. Forgotten now, yes, but the pieces were there. A sharp mind. An iron patience learned too early. And one crucial thing. He remembered kindness. "Why do you keep coming?" he asked suddenly. I met his gaze. His eyes were dark, steady, too old for his face. "Because we are friends," I said. "And the only one you got now." He looked away. Outside, wind rattled the bare branches. The palace felt like a tomb pretending to be a home. "I heard the other princes are studying military texts now. They have tutors," he said quietly. "You'll have one too," I replied. He turned back sharply. "What?" "I've already arranged it. He'll come twice a week." "Officially," I said. Li Jing stared at me, stunned. "You shouldn't do this if they notice." "They won't, and even if they do, they won't dare touch you through me." I interrupted. That was not arrogance. It was fact. The Shin family controlled grain routes in 3 provinces. Even the emperor watched his words around my father. Li Jing's fingers tightened around the teacup. Why? He asked again, softer this time. I considered him carefully. Because it's my mission, I thought. Because your survival matters more than your gratitude. Because someone must stand beside you when you have nothing. Aloud I said, like I said, because you're my friend. His breath caught. For a moment the prince looked like a boy again. Not a discarded piece on the board, but someone who had been waiting to hear those words. I won't forget this, he said. I nodded. You don't need to. As I stood to leave, he followed me to the door. Ah Yen, he called. I turned. When the snow melts, will you come again? Yes, I answered without hesitation. I stepped back into the cold, silk robes brushing against stone. Behind me, in the loneliest palace of them all, someone finally felt warm. And to me, that was enough. Power, when used correctly, should be invisible. That was something my father used to say. The Shin family never stood at the front of court debates, never shouted loyalty loud enough to invite suspicion. We moved grain when borders starved. We funded academies where future ministers studied. We placed favors like stones across a river, stepping only when needed. Helping Li Jing was no different. I didn't give him soldiers. That would have been foolish. I gave him people who would one day command soldiers. The scholar arrived first. His surname was Chiu, a man past 40, dismissed from court years ago for offending the wrong faction. Brilliant, sharp-tongued, and forgotten. I invited him to tea at the Shin residence, spoke to him for half an hour, then offered him a quiet position teaching a minor prince calligraphy and history. He accepted without asking which prince. 2 months later, Li Jing's essays began circulating privately among the court scholars. No name attached, just admiration. We met twice a week now, sometimes at the cold palace, sometimes at a small courtyard I had arranged outside the inner city, far from prying eyes. Li Jing learned quickly, too quickly. One afternoon, after Chiu left, Li Jing remained seated, fingers resting on the table, gaze fixed on the inkstone. You rewrote the 3rd line, he said. Yes, because it sounded too resentful. Yes. He lifted his head. Would that have been dangerous? In the wrong hands, yes, I replied. He was silent for a long moment, then nodded. I understand. That was becoming a habit. Others would explain. He would listen. I would speak. He would accept. At first, I told myself it was efficiency. The second piece was a general. General Zhao Ming, stationed near the western border. Officially, I had no dealings with the military. Unofficially, the Shin family supplied half their winter provisions. I visited Zhao Ming under the pretense of inspecting supply routes. We drank once. We talked about horses. He complained about court politics. I listened. Before I left, I said casually, if His Majesty ever remembers the 7th prince, I hope you'll remember him kindly too. Zhao Ming paused, then laughed. The one in the cold palace? Yes. He won't survive court, Zhao Ming said. Perhaps, but if he does, I hope he remembers who did not look down on him. I replied. That was all. Months later, Zhao Ming sent Li Jing a letter. Nothing overt, just advice. A line of encouragement. Promise of loyalty someday. Li Jing read it 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and placed it inside his sleeve, close to his chest. Change is rarely sudden, but people notice patterns. A minister's son began visiting the cold palace more often. A dismissed scholar resurfaced. A general's name became quietly linked to the 7th prince. Whispers followed. One day, Li Jing asked me, am I being too obvious? I shook my head. No one suspects a prince with nothing. He looked at me then, expression unreadable. You really believe I'll have something someday? I wouldn't waste resources otherwise, I replied. That made him smile. It wasn't wide. It wasn't bright. But it was real. Court banquets he began to change. Still quiet. Still polite. But no longer invisible. When spoken to, he answered with measured humility. When ignored, he waited without resentment. I watched ministers take note, one by one, like merchants assessing an uncut gem. Once, a senior official tried to test him. "The seventh prince seems unusually well-read these days. Who teach your highness?" the man said lightly. Li Jing lowered his gaze. "Just old books." The official laughed. "Books don't teach themselves." I set my cup down. "Books teach those willing to listen. Your Excellency should know that," I said mildly. The man stiffened when he saw me speak. Li Jing said nothing. Later, in the carriage, he asked, "Was that necessary?" "Yes, they need to know where the line is," I said. "Because of the Shin family?" "Because of me." He didn't respond right away. Then he said, very quietly, "Thank you." It was after that I began to notice his gaze. Not always. Not openly. Sometimes when I was speaking to others, I'd feel it settle on me, steady and unblinking. When I turned, he would already be looking away, expression composed. Once I asked, "Is something wrong?" "No," he answered too quickly. I didn't press. People who have been abandoned learn to hold on tightly, even to small certainties. I understood that well enough. To him, I was stability, constant, someone who came when promised and left only when necessary. That was all. On the night snow fell early, Li Jing stopped me before I left. "Ah Yan," he said. "Yes. If one day I stand somewhere higher, will you still stand below me?" he asked. I corrected him gently. "I will stand where I am needed." That seemed to satisfy him. He bowed to me then, properly, deeply. A prince bowing to a merchant's son. I accepted it without comment. Helping him ascend did not require thanks. It required patience. And I had plenty of that. Like that, years passed by, and the day that all of my efforts are finally giving me the result come, the imperial edict was read at dawn. I stood among the civil officials, hands folded inside my sleeves, listening as the eunuch's voice echoed across the hall of supreme harmony. The words were formal, ancient, and heavy with finality. "The seventh prince, Li Jing, is hereby enthroned." There was no applause, only the measured kneeling of bodies striking stone. I lowered my head with the rest. From this moment on, there was no seventh prince, only the emperor. When I rose, my first thought was simple and clear. My task was finished. The coronation lasted 3 days. 3 days of ritual, offerings, and endless ceremonies meant to convince heaven that this man had the right to rule beneath it. I attended each one, silent and unobtrusive, as I had always been. Li Jing wore imperial robes well. Too well. Gold did not overwhelm him. Authority did not intoxicate him. He sat straight-backed on the dragon throne, eyes calm, gaze steady, as if he had been preparing for this moment since the first winter he spent in the cold palace. When our eyes met across the hall, he inclined his head slightly. Only to me. No one else noticed. On the 4th night, I was awakened by the sound of steel. Not ceremony. Not celebration. Steel drawn in haste. I reached for my outer robe and stepped into the corridor just as a palace guard rushed past. Face pale. "Rebels, they've breached the eastern gate," he gasped. So it had come. I wasn't surprised. Too many interests had been cut cleanly. Too many princes dismissed too quietly. A smooth ascension always hid blood beneath it. I didn't return to my quarters. I went straight to the inner palace. The air was thick with smoke. Torches burned where lanterns had fallen. Screams echoed, sharp and brief. I moved through the chaos with unnatural calm. Someone shouted, "Protect His Majesty." Another voice cried, "Assassins in black." I saw Li Jing near the steps of the main hall, flanked by guards, sword in hand. His expression was cold, focused. This was not a frightened ruler. This was a man fighting for survival. A rebel broke through the line. Too fast. Too close. I didn't think. I stepped forward. The blade entered my body before I felt it. A sharp impact like being struck hard in the chest. Then warmth spread, soaking through layers of silk. I heard Li Jing shout my name. Not Shen Yen. Not Minister Shin. Just my name. He caught me as my knees gave way, hands pressing against the wound as if he could force the blood back inside. "Why are you here?" he demanded, voice shaking. I looked up at him. His face was pale beneath the torchlight. Not emperor, not ruler. Just Li Jing again. "I came for you," I said quietly. The guards closed in, pushing us back as the rebels were cut down. I was lowered to the ground, my back against cold stone. Li Jing knelt beside me, ignoring the chaos around us. "Physician, summon the imperial physicians," he shouted. I caught his sleeve. "There's no time, listen to me," I said calmly. He shook his head. "No, don't speak." Blood bubbled at the corner of my lips. "You must stabilize the court, purge slowly. Don't rush. Zhao Ming will support you in the west. Qiu can be trusted." I continued. "How do you know?" he asked hoarsely. "I arranged it," I replied. His grip tightened, fingers digging into my sleeve. "You planned everything for my future?" he asked. I didn't answer. The pain finally arrived, dull and spreading, like winter settling into bone. My vision blurred at the edges. Li Jing leaned closer, as if proximity alone could keep me here. "You promised, you said you would stand where you were needed," he said. "I am," I replied. He laughed once, broken and disbelieving. "This isn't what I meant." "I know." I reached out and pressed my bloodied fingers against his sleeve, just above his wrist. "Your Majesty must live. My only hope is to see you become a great ruler. Don't make my efforts go away," I said evenly. His eyes were red. Whether from smoke or something else, I couldn't tell. "I don't need the throne if you're gone," he whispered. "That is something an emperor must never say." I said softly. The world grew quieter. I was dimly aware of someone pulling Li Jing back, of voices urging him to leave, to take shelter. He resisted until the last moment. Before he stood, he bent close, forehead nearly touching mine. "I won't forget, not in this life," he said. I believed him. As my sight faded, I felt no regret. I had taken a discarded prince and placed him on the throne. I had used wealth, influence, and reputation exactly as intended. I had fulfilled my role. When darkness finally closed in, my last thought was simple and precise. Loyalty, when given fully, leaves nothing behind. And then I let go. Just like that, the system take me to another world. The smell of disinfectant was the first thing I noticed. Not incense, not blood, not smoke. I opened my eyes to white ceilings and the low hum of an air conditioner. For a brief second, I thought the rebellion had failed, that I had been dragged back from death. Then a nurse walked past the door, speaking into her phone. "Another patient from exhaustion. These industry people really don't know how to rest." I exhaled slowly. So this was the next world. My name was still Shen Yan. This time, I was not a noble's son, nor a tycoon. I was a manager at a mid-sized entertainment company. Not powerful, not struggling, just capable enough to survive. I sat up, ignoring the dull ache behind my eyes, and memories settled into place. 5 years in the industry, no scandals, no big hits, a reputation for being steady, cautious, and difficult to pressure. Someone upper management trusted with troublesome artists, including him, Lin Su. I found him 3 days later on set. It was a low-budget web drama, historical fantasy with cheap props and a script that tried too hard to be clever. Lin Su stood under the artificial lights, dressed in a general's armor made of painted foam, repeating the same scene for the 6th time. Again, less stiff. The director snapped. Lin Su nodded. Understood. He adjusted his stance, gaze sharpening, posture straightening just enough to sell authority without exaggeration. When the camera rolled, the set quieted. For a moment, the cheap set disappeared. When the director finally called cut, the assistant director muttered, "What a waste." I agreed. Lin Su walked over, towel around his neck, sweat darkening his hairline. "Brother Shin, you're out already?" he said. Doctor said it was just exhaustion," I replied. He frowned. "You didn't tell me." There was nothing to tell. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue. Lin Su wasn't the type to push without permission. That, more tin anything, was why he had lasted this long without burning bridges. How was the scene? I asked. He hesitated. Same. I handed him a bottle of water. It won't be your last time on a set like this. He took it, fingers brushing the plastic, and gave a small, tired smile. You always say that. Because it's true. Back at the company, I laid everything out. Lin Su's strength was control. His weakness was lack of backing. No powerful sponsor. No family in the industry. Talent alone only carried someone so far. We're not taking variety shows yet, too early, I said, scrolling through schedules. But exposure can wait. Your image isn't stable. I interrupted. He leaned forward. Then what are we taking? I showed him the list. Supporting roles. 1 movie audition. 1 modern drama with a demanding director known for burning through actors. He read it carefully. These won't make me famous, he said. No, they'll make you respected. I agreed. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll listen to you. Weeks passed. Lin Su took every role seriously, even when the scripts were bad. I declined endorsements that wanted quick hype. I turned down dinners that came with expectations disguised as favors. Some people laughed. You're too clean, Manager Shin. This industry doesn't work that way. One producer said, it works just fine, just slower. I replied. Lin Su never complained. If I asked him to redo a scene 10 times, he did it 11. If I told him to reject an offer, he rejected it without asking why. Once, after a particularly long day, he stayed behind while I reviewed contracts. Why are you so patient with me? He asked suddenly. I didn't look up. Patience saves time later. That's not what I meant. I paused. He stood there, hands at his sides, expression earnest in a way the industry usually sanded down within months. I've seen managers like you, they don't last, or they sell out. He continued. And? I asked. And you don't why? He said. I finally met his gaze. He wasn't asking for reassurance. He was asking for permission to trust. Because you're worth it, I said simply. He inhaled sharply, like he hadn't expected such a straightforward answer. After that, something shifted. Lin Su began checking with me before everything. Scripts, interviews, even casual conversations with other actors. If I wasn't nearby, he grew noticeably quieter. I noticed. I told myself it was professionalism. In this industry, someone steady was rare. Of course he would hold on. That was all. Late one night, as I locked up the office, I caught my reflection in the glass. No crown, no silk robes, no blood on my hands. Just a manager with dark circles and a phone full of schedules. Different world. Same role. I was here to make him shine. Nothing more. Fame never arrives all at once. It seeps in. One role is praised. One interview circulates. One director mentions a name in passing, and suddenly that name begins appearing in places it never had before. Lin Su was no exception. The modern drama aired on a quiet weeknight. His role wasn't large, but it was restrained, precise, and easy to remember. By the second episode, short clips of his scenes were already being cut and shared online. This supporting actor is interesting. Who's his manager? I read the comments while waiting for a meeting to start. That question told me everything I needed to know. Work multiplied. Interview invitations. Photo shoots. Variety show offers disguised as friendly exposure. Dinners arranged through intermediaries who smiled too much and asked too many personal questions. I filtered them all. No live variety shows yet, I said during a call. No alcohol sponsorships. No private meetings without staff present. Some people pushed back. Manager Shin, your artist is entering his rising phase. Being flexible now will benefit him later. One advertiser said, voice oily through the phone. Pressure makes cracks. We don't need benefits that early. I replied. They laughed. I declined anyway. Lin Su never contradicted me. I was reviewing a contract one afternoon when I noticed he hadn't spoken in several minutes. I looked up. He sat across from me, phone in hand, screen dark. "You didn't answer earlier," he said. "I was in a meeting," I replied. He nodded, but his grip on the phone tightened. "Next time, can you message me first?" he said. I paused. "I'll try." That seemed to ease him. The rumors began quietly. Nothing explosive, just speculation. Is Lin Su being suppressed by his own manager? Why doesn't he take variety shows like everyone else? Is he difficult to work with? I dealt with them the same way I always did. Silence. Consistent work. Time. During one shoot, a junior actor joked, "Brother Lin, you're really obedient. Don't you ever make your own decisions?" Lin Su smiled politely. "I trust my manager." That was all he said. I felt several gazes turn toward me. The first real temptation came on a rainy evening. A producer I knew well invited me to dinner. Private room. Expensive wine. Too many compliments. "There's a role coming up, male lead. Big investment," he said casually. "I'm listening," I replied. "It'd be good for Lin Su, but you know how things work. He needs to be cooperative." He continued. I set my glass down. "You're drunk," I said calmly. He laughed. "Don't be naive. You're protecting him too tightly." "Then find someone else," I replied. I left before the food arrived. Lin Su was waiting in the car. "You're late. Did something happen?" he said, scanning my face. "Nothing worth mentioning." He studied me for a moment, then looked away. "If it causes trouble, you don't have to reject everything." "I do, that's my job," I replied. He was quiet for the rest of the ride. That night, he called me twice. I missed both. When I finally returned the call, his voice was tight. "I thought something happened to you." "I was asleep." "Oh." He hesitated. "Next time, can you tell me?" I agreed without thinking. The pace increased. He moved apartments, changed stylists, added security. Through it all, he kept the same habit. Before signing anything, he asked me. Before speaking publicly, he checked with me. Before trusting anyone, he waited for my nod. If I didn't respond quickly enough, his messages stacked up. "Brother Shin, are you busy? I'll wait." I noticed. I told myself it was pressure. Fame did that to people. It made them nervous. It made them cling to routines. I adjusted mine accordingly. I slept less. I answered faster. I stopped delegating tasks that involved him. When my assistant asked, "Don't you think you're doing too much?" I shook my head. "This phase is critical. One mistake ruins everything," I said. She looked unconvinced, but didn't argue. Late one night, after a long shoot, Lin Su sat beside me in the van, city lights sliding past the window. "Brother Shun," he called quietly. "Yes." "If one day everyone leaves, you won't, right?" he asked. I didn't look at him. "Managers don't leave without reason," I replied. "That's not what I asked." I finally turned to him. "I'm here. Focus on your work," I said. That was enough. He leaned back, eyes closing, tension easing from his shoulders. At home, I reviewed tomorrow's schedule until my vision blurred. Fame was a blade. Handled correctly, it carved a path upward. Mishandled, it cut deep. If he was relying on me more than necessary, that was acceptable. Someone had to bear the weight. I always had. Like that, in this life also, I was finally achieved my goal through guiding Lin Su for years. Award ceremonies are designed to look grand on screen. Backstage, they are narrow, loud, and chaotic. I stood near the equipment racks, tablet in hand, confirming tomorrow's schedule even as the host's voice echoed through the hall. The smell of hairspray and warm lights filled the air. Assistants hurried past, whispering last-minute reminders. On the stage monitor, the nominees' names scrolled by. When Lin Su's name appeared, the noise seemed to fade. "And the Best Actor award goes to..." There was a pause, a familiar trick. "Lin Su." Applause erupted. I watched as he rose from his seat, expression briefly blank before he adjusted it into something suitable for the camera. Calm, grateful, controlled, just as I'd taught him. He delivered his speech without deviation. Thanked the director, thanked the crew, thanked the audience. When he thanked his manager, the camera cut briefly to me. I inclined my head once, nothing more. That was enough. By the time he stepped off the stage, the hall was roaring. I checked the time. My work here was done. He found me immediately. "Brother Shen, did I do okay?" he asked, voice tight, like he was holding something back. "You did exactly what you should have," I replied. "That's it." I glanced at him. His hands were trembling slightly. "You won, the rest doesn't matter," I said. His breathing finally steadied. The after-party invitations piled up. I declined most of them. "He's tired, we're leaving," I said. Some people frowned. One or two looked annoyed. None of that mattered anymore. We had crossed the line that separated effort from result. In the van, Lin Su sat unusually quiet. "You're not celebrating," he said. "There will be time later, tomorrow you have interviews." I replied. He nodded, then suddenly said, "If you hadn't stopped me back then, I wouldn't be here." "That's not something worth discussing," I said. "It is to me." I looked out the window. People liked to attach meaning after success. They needed causes, reasons, anchors. I had been an anchor. That was all. We stopped at the hotel entrance. "Go rest, I'll go home," I told him. He frowned. "You're not staying?" "There's nothing else to manage tonight." He hesitated, then said, "Call me when you get back." "I will." That satisfied him. The street outside was bright with celebration. Billboards, screens, his face everywhere. I crossed at the green light, phone vibrating in my pocket with messages I hadn't yet read. Then everything shattered. The sound came first. Metal screaming against metal. Glass breaking. I felt myself lifted, then thrown. The ground rushed up to meet me. Pain arrived late, distant, like it belonged to someone else. I lay on the cold pavement, staring up at the blurred lights above. People shouted. Someone called an ambulance. My phone skidded across the road. I tried to move. My body didn't respond. So this was how it ended. Through the haze I heard my name, not shouted by strangers. By him. Shen Yen. Lin Su ran toward me, suit jacket gone, hair disheveled. The composure he wore on stage was nowhere to be seen. He knelt beside me, hands hovering, afraid to touch. "Stay awake, please," he said, voice breaking. I wanted to tell him to calm down. This was not something worth panicking over. My vision darkened at the edges. I focused on his face, on the fear he couldn't hide. "You won," I said quietly. "What?" he choked. "You did well. Don't waste it." I continued. Tears slid down his face, landing on my sleeve. "Don't talk like that, I can't do this without you," he said. I almost sighed. People always said that at the wrong time. The sirens grew louder. I felt hands lifting me onto a stretcher. The world tilted. As the ceiling of the ambulance came into view, I allowed myself one final thought. At least he made it. That was enough. The rest faded into white. This time I woke up to silence. No palace bells. No ambulance sirens. Just the steady ticking of a wall clock and the faint hum of the city below. The room was spacious, minimalist, and coldly elegant. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a river that cut through the city like a blade. Morning light filtered in, pale and restrained. I sat up slowly. My name was Shen Yen again, founder and chairman of Shin Group, spanning real estate, finance, and technology. No partners, no scandals. A man whose name appeared regularly in business magazines, always paired with words like decisive and untouchable. I accepted it without emotion. Power, once learned, was easy to wear again. The memories came with an ache I didn't immediately place. Car accident. Rain-soaked asphalt. A younger brother's hand slipping from mine. My parents had died on the spot. My brother had not. He lingered in the hospital for 3 days, then left quietly, like someone afraid of disturbing the living. I closed my eyes. So that was the wound this world had given me. and the male lead in this world is an orphan named Gu Cheng. This time, my task is to make him own the world. I met Gu Cheng at an orphanage on the outskirts of the city. I hadn't planned to adopt anyone. The visit was meant to be a formality, part of a charity project under Shin Group. Photos, a donation, a speech I wouldn't personally give. Then I saw him. He sat alone in the corner of the activity room, back straight, hands resting neatly on his knees. He wasn't playing. He wasn't crying. He was watching, not like a child waiting to be chosen, like someone already resigned to not being. How old is he? I asked. The director followed my gaze. 14. He's been here a long time. Family? She shook her head. None left. Gu Cheng looked up then, eyes meeting mine across the room. For a moment, the past overlapped with the present so cleanly it hurt. Same eyes, same quiet endurance, same expression of having learned too early that asking was pointless. I crouched in front of him. What's your name? I asked. Gu Cheng, he replied. No hesitation, no fear. Do you go to school? Yes. What do you want to do in the future? He paused. I don't know, he said honestly. That answer decided it. The paperwork was completed efficiently. Money removed obstacles. Influence removed delays. By the time the sun set, Gu Cheng stood beside me at the orphanage gate, carrying a single backpack. He looked small in the oversized jacket the staff had given him. From today on, you'll live with me, I said. He nodded. Do you understand what that means? I asked. Yes, it means I won't come back here, he said. That's part of it. He looked up at me again. Do I have to call you father? I shook my head. No. What should I call you? I considered it briefly. Brother. He blinked. Broader. Yes. He tested the word once, quietly. Brother. Sounded right. The house was too big. I noticed it the first night he moved in. The rooms echoed in a way they hadn't before. I assigned him a bedroom next to mine without explanation. He didn't ask. At dinner, he ate slowly, carefully, as if afraid of wasting anything. I watched without comment. You'll start at a new school next month, private. Close by, I said. He nodded. You'll have tutors if needed. Yes. If there's anything you want, tell me. I continued. He hesitated, then asked, Is this temporary? No, this is your home, I said. His chopsticks stilled. Okay. That night, I heard movement outside my door. When I opened it, Gu Cheng stood there, unsure. Did something happen? I asked. He shook his head. I just wanted to know if you were still here. I'm not leaving, I said. He nodded once and returned to his room. Years passed quietly. Gu Cheng grew taller, sharper. He excelled academically without pressure. Learned quickly. Watched closely. He began waiting for me to return home before eating dinner. I told him not to. He did it anyway. When asked about family at school, he answered calmly, I live with my brother. That was accurate enough. I attended his parent meetings, signed documents, corrected his posture when he slouched, taught him how to shake hands, how to speak only when necessary, how to endure silence without discomfort. He absorbed everything. I kept my role clear. I was not replacing anyone. I was giving him what I could. One evening, as we sat in the study, Gu Cheng asked, Why did you choose me? I didn't answer immediately. Because you needed someone? I said finally. He looked at me for a long time. I'll remember that, he said. I nodded. That was all that was required. I didn't notice when the house stopped feeling empty. Only that one day it no longer echoed. And that, I realized too late, was how these things always began. People change slowly. So slowly that by the time you notice, it feels as though nothing could have been done differently. Gu Cheng turned 21 in early winter. By then, he had grown taller than me. His shoulders were broad, posture straight, expression calm. He moved through the house like he owned it, not in arrogance, but in certainty, as if this place and everything in it had always been his. I found that reassuring. First, He became attentive in small ways. He adjusted the temperature in my study before I arrived, replaced my tea without asking, canceled social invitations on my behalf when I worked late. "I already told them you're busy," he said once, scrolling through my phone with practiced ease. "You shouldn't answer messages that aren't yours," I replied. He handed it back immediately. "I won't do it again." He did. People around me noticed. "Young Master Gu is very devoted. He even remembers your medication schedule better than I do," my assistant said one afternoon. "That's unnecessary. He should focus on his own life," I replied. She smiled awkwardly. "He doesn't seem interested in that." I dismissed it as overprotection. Children who grew up without stability often clung harder when they finally had it. I understood that. I had once been the same. The first real sign came during a dinner. A business partner, Su Liang, had brought his daughter along. She was polite, intelligent, and clearly interested in conversation beyond contracts. We spoke briefly about overseas investments. Gu Cheng sat beside me silent. When Su Liang's daughter excused herself, Gu Cheng spoke. "She asks too many questions." "She's curious," I replied. "She doesn't need to be." I glanced at him. "That's not your place to decide." His jaw tightened. "I'm just reminding you that not everyone approaches you without motive," he said evenly. "That's always been the case. You don't need to guard me," I replied. He didn't answer. But after that night, Su Liang's invitations stopped arriving. I began to create distance. I stopped returning home for dinner every night. Extended business trips. Delegated tasks Gu Cheng usually handled. When he asked to accompany me, I declined. "You don't need to follow me everywhere," I said. "I wasn't planning to," he replied. But his eyes stayed on me until the door closed. The illness announced itself quietly. Cough that lingered too long. Fatigue that sleep didn't erase. A metallic taste at the back of my throat that no amount of tea could wash away. I ignored it. My schedule had always been heavy. Bodies aged. This was normal. During a board meeting, I felt dizzy for the first time. The room tilted. The voices blurred. I steadied myself against the table and continued speaking. No one noticed, except Gu Cheng. That evening, he waited outside my office. "You didn't eat lunch," he said. "I wasn't hungry. You were pale. The lighting was bad." He stepped closer. "You're coughing blood." I froze. It had happened once. Briefly. I hadn't thought. "When?" I asked. "Yesterday you turned away," he replied. Silence stretched between us. "I'll see a doctor," I said finally. "Tomorrow," he said. "Soon." "Tomorrow," he repeated, firmer. The diagnosis took longer than expected. The doctor spoke carefully. Too carefully. Late stage. Aggressive. Limited options. "So this is it, this time, this is the way that the system is going to take me away." I listened without interruption, nodding when appropriate. When I came back home, Gu Cheng was waiting for me. "How was it? What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing serious, just working too much," I replied. He looked at me, eyes dark. "Is that so? Then it's fine if it's nothing serious," he said and left the room. I have always believed that endings should be clean. No explanations that invite argument. No goodbyes that turn into bargaining. No scenes that linger longer than necessary. So I prepared mine the same way I handled everything else. Efficiently. The legal transfer took 3 days. Every asset under Shin Group. Every subsidiary. Every private account. I signed the documents myself, handwriting steady, seal pressed without hesitation. The lawyer hesitated once. "Chairman Shen, this is comprehensive," he said carefully. "That's the point," I replied. "And the beneficiary?" "Gu Cheng." The pen paused. "All of it?" "Yes." He said nothing more. Money, at the end of the day, was just responsibility in another form. I was simply passing it on to someone who could carry it longer than I could. I booked a flight under a different name. A small country, quiet coastline, a private medical facility that asked no unnecessary questions. The kind of place people went when they wanted time, not miracles. I packed lightly. Documents, clothes, medication, no letters. Words complicated things. Gu Cheng noticed immediately. "You're sorting old files, why?" he said one evening, leaning against the study door. "Routine cleanup. You've never done it personally." "I have time now." He watched me for a long moment, eyes sharp. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I'll be away for a while." "For work?" "Yes." The lie passed smoothly. Too smoothly. The night before my departure, he didn't sleep. Neither did I. At dawn, as I reached for my coat, his voice came from behind me. "You transferred everything." I stopped. "I got the notification from the legal department. You forgot to block my access." He continued quietly. I turned to face him. That wasn't a mistake. His expression shifted. Something tight and dangerous breaking through the surface calm. "You're leaving," he said. "Yes." "For how long?" I didn't answer. "That's not an answer," he snapped. "It's all you're getting." He moved faster than I expected. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked. I didn't react immediately. "Gu Cheng, this is unnecessary," I said. "You're not going," he replied. "This isn't your decision." He laughed. A sound without humor. "Everything else is, you made sure of that," he said. He stepped closer, hands gripping my coat like it was the only thing keeping me real. "You think I don't know? The doctor visits, the medication, the nights you couldn't breathe," he said. I closed my eyes briefly. "You should have focused on your future, not mine," I said. "You are my future," he said hoarsely. "That's a mistake," I replied. The pain hit harder then. Sharp, sudden, unforgiving. My legs weakened. He caught me immediately, arms tight around my back, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. No, sit down," he said. He lowered me onto the bed, hands shaking as he reached for his phone. "I'll call a doctor. I'll call anyone. Just—" "There's no point," I interrupted. He froze. "What do you mean?" I looked at him calmly. "I'm tired, that's all," I said. His breathing broke. "You promised, you said this is my home," he whispered. "It is, that doesn't mean I stay forever," I replied. Time lost its shape after that. I remember his voice, overlapping pleas tumbling out without order. "Don't go. I'll do anything. You can't leave me like this." He held me tightly, as if force alone could anchor me here. My vision dimmed. I focused on his face, on the way his composure had finally shattered. "You don't need me anymore," I said quietly. "Yes, I do, I always will," he said immediately. I almost corrected him. Almost. Breathing became difficult. Each breath felt borrowed. Gu Cheng pressed his forehead against mine, tears falling unchecked. "Stay, just stay," he begged. I wanted to tell him something useful, something firm. Instead, I said, "Live well." That broke him. As the world faded, I felt his grip tighten, desperate, frantic, like someone trying to hold water in his hands. I had done everything I could. In every world, I protected what needed protecting. I gave what needed giving. I left when staying would only cause harm. This time was no different. My last thought was simple. Quiet farewells were kinder. Then I let go. I woke up standing. There was no pain, no weight, no sense of falling or rising. Just awareness returning all at once, clean and abrupt, like a curtain pulled aside. The world was empty. No sky, no ground, no horizon. White stretched in every direction, featureless and silent. When I moved, there was no echo, no resistance, as if space itself had agreed to tolerate my presence without acknowledging it. I checked myself out of habit. No wounds, no illness, no weakness. I was whole. "So this is it," I murmured. For the first time since the beginning, there was no system voice, no task prompt, no countdown or explanation waiting patiently in my mind. No mission. That realization settled slowly. All the worlds before this had been structured. Clear objectives, clear endings. Even death had been purposeful, a necessary exit. This place was not. Felt like an aftermath. I waited. Time was impossible to measure here. Seconds did not pass so much as exist. I tried walking. The distance never changed. I tried sitting. The ground accepted me without texture. Calm returned. If there was nothing to do, then waiting was the correct response. That was when the air shifted. Not visually, not audibly, but instinctively. I turned. Someone was standing behind me. He wore imperial robes, black and gold, familiar down to the smallest embroidered pattern. His posture was straight, expression composed, eyes dark and sharp. Li Jing. Not the neglected prince. Not the newly crowned emperor. The emperor who had ruled after my death. He looked exactly as he had on the night I died, except for one thing. His gaze. It was no longer restrained by ceremony or grief. It was fixed on me. "Ah Yen," he said. My name, spoken without hesitation. I didn't step back. "Your Majesty." He smiled faintly. "You still call me that even now," he said. "This seems like a place without titles, but habits remain." I replied. He took a step closer. The space between us closed far too easily. "I searched for you, for a very long time," he said calmly. "You ruled an empire. That should have kept you busy." I said. "It did, that's why I survived long enough to come here," he replied. I frowned slightly. Before I could question that, the air shifted again. This time, the sound came with it. Footsteps. Uneven. Rushed. "Shen Yen." I turned. Lin Su stood several paces away, dressed not in formal wear, but in the clothes from the night of the awards ceremony. His hair was disheveled, eyes red, breath unsteady. He looked at me like someone afraid I might disappear if he blinked. "You're here," he said, voice breaking on the last word. He crossed the distance in 3 long strides, stopping just short of touching me. His hands hovered, uncertain, trembling. "I watched you die. They wouldn't let me into the emergency room. I thought," he said hoarsely. "That's enough," Li Jing said coolly. Lin Su finally seemed to notice him. His expression changed instantly. Who are you?" he asked. Li Jing looked him over once, dismissively. "Someone who knew him first. That doesn't matter. I was the one with him at the end." Lin Su snapped. Neither of them noticed me speaking. The third presence arrived without warning. No sound. No shift. He was simply there. Gu Cheng. Dressed in a black coat, eyes dark, expression unreadable. He stood close. Too close. I felt it immediately. A hand closed around my wrist. Firm. Real. I looked down. Gu Cheng was touching me. The first physical contact in this place. "You're alive," he said quietly. "Yes," I replied. His grip tightened, not enough to hurt, but enough to make a point. "You left," he continued. "I died," I corrected. "That's not an excuse," he said. Silence fell. 3 gazes settled on me at once. Not pleading. Not restrained. Not respectful. Assessing. Claiming. I felt something unfamiliar then. Not fear. Awareness. "You all remember," I said slowly. Li Jing inclined his head. "Every moment." Lin Su swallowed. "Every word." Gu Cheng didn't speak. He didn't need to. "This isn't how it's supposed to work," I said. "No, it isn't," Li Jing agreed. "But it is how it ended," Lin Su said. Gu Cheng stepped closer, forcing me to look at him. "You don't get to disappear anymore, not without my permission," he said softly. I frowned. "You don't have that authority." His thumb brushed lightly against my pulse. "I do now." That was when I understood. This place was not a reward. It was not a continuation. It was a reckoning. I took a slow breath. "Let go," I said. None of them moved. Their gazes burned into me, unfiltered at last. For the first time across all worlds, I realized something with absolute clarity. They had not followed me to protect me. They had come to claim me. And this time, there was nowhere left to transmigrate to. They did not rush me. That was the first thing I noticed. The white space remained unchanged, silent and vast. Yet the air around me had become heavy, compressed by presence alone. I stood at the center, and they formed a loose circle around me, close enough that I could feel heat, breath, intent. 3 people. 3 pasts I had carefully sealed and left behind. Li Jing was the first to speak. You took my hand when I had nothing. You stood between me and death before I ever wore the crown, he said calmly. His voice was steady, imperial even now. You taught me how to endure humiliation, how to wait, how to rule without mercy. From childhood onward, everything I became was built with you. His gaze locked onto mine. That was my duty, I replied. Li Jing smiled. That is where you're wrong, he said. Lin Su stepped forward next. Unlike Li Jing, he was visibly struggling to restrain himself. His eyes were red, jaw tight, hands clenched at his sides like he was afraid of what they might do if given permission. You were the first person who told me I was worth waiting for. Everyone else wanted to use me fast, burn me bright, then replace me, he said. You shaped my entire life, every role I chose, every word I spoke, even the way I stood on stage. He continued. I met his gaze. I was your manager. You were my anchor, and then you died. He corrected. His voice cracked on the last word. Gu Chang said nothing at first. He was closest to me, close enough that, when he raised his hand, I felt it before I saw it. His fingers brushed my sleeve. I stiffened. You brought me home, you gave me a name, a future, a place to stand, he said. His hand slid higher, resting at my shoulder. You said you were my family. Family doesn't disappear, he continued. That wasn't, I began. You belong to my life, whether you admit it or not. Gu Chang interrupted. They moved then, deliberately. Li Jing stepped behind me, presence closing off retreat. Lin Su stood in front, eyes fixed on my face as if memorizing it. Gu Chang remained at my side, grip firm now, undeniable. This isn't necessary, I said. Li Jing's voice came close to my ear. It is. You kept choosing death over staying, so we'll make the choice for you. Lin Su said. This is not loyalty, I said sharply. No, it's more than that. Gu Chang agreed. Hands touched me. Not violent, not gentle, claiming. Li Jing's hand closed around my wrist, the same wrist he had once clutched while begging me not to die. Lin Su's fingers slid into my hair, trembling slightly despite his resolve. Gu Cheng's grip at my waist anchored me in place. I felt something fracture inside my chest. This was not the devotion I had calculated. This was not gratitude. Li Jing was the first to kiss me. There was no hesitation. His lips pressed against mine with quiet authority, demanding rather than asking. The weight of an emperor who had never been refused settled into that single act. I inhaled sharply. Lin Su made a sound low in his throat. When Li Jing pulled back, Lin Su took his place immediately, kiss desperate, uneven, as if he was afraid I would vanish mid-breath. His hands shook against my back, grip tightening when I didn't push him away. Then Gu Chang. No urgency, no rush. He kissed me like a conclusion. Slow, firm, final. I closed my eyes. I did not resist. That realization hit harder than their touch. Somewhere deep inside, a truth surfaced that I had avoided across 3 worlds. I had never been as distant as I believed. Never as detached. Never just a passerby. I had stayed. I had given. I had let them center their worlds around me. And then I had left. Again and again. When they finally stepped back, the silence was deafening. My lips were swollen. My breath uneven. Their gazes were no longer restrained by memory or loss. They were present. You understand now, Li Jing said softly. I didn't answer immediately. I understood what my loyalty had done, what my silence had allowed, what my disappearances had created. This was not obsession born overnight. It was cultivated, carefully, by me. I looked at them one by one. An emperor who had learned to rule without mercy. An actor who had learned to exist only when seen. A man who had learned to hold on because letting go once had nearly destroyed him. All of them had survived me. None of them had moved on. How did you get here? I asked at last. The question had been sitting in my chest since the moment they appeared. This place is outside the worlds. Even the system doesn't allow unauthorized entry. I continued calmly. Li Jing smiled faintly. That's why it took so long. He stepped forward, eyes dark with memory. When you died protecting me, I ruled until the Empire no longer needed me, but all that time I started looking for what came after death, he said. Lin Su let out a quiet laugh. I tried to kill myself after you left, but no matter how I tried, I could not die, and by some miracle I'll be back in my own path. That's when I realized that the world I'm living can't be normal, he said. Gu Cheng's voice was steady. I refused to die quietly. When I realized your existence had been regulated, monitored, removed, I broke everything I could reach, he said. I felt my breath still. Li Jing continued. Every world you entered left traces, abnormal collapses, emotional residue, inconsistencies the system couldn't fully erase. Lin Su nodded. We followed those cracks. Gu Cheng tightened his grip on my hand. And when the system tried to reset this space, we tore it open, he said. The white world trembled. Not violently, as if something false was being peeled away. You shouldn't have been able to do that, I said. No, but this system was never built to handle refusal. Li Jing agreed. Silence followed. There was no point delaying anymore. I need to explain something, I said. Their attention sharpened instantly. I was never meant to stay. I wasn't reborn. I wasn't saved. I was assigned. I continued. I told them everything. The system, the missions, the conditions, the reason I always left once the goal was reached. I wasn't allowed to choose an ending, only to ensure yours, I said. None of them interrupted. When I finished, Lin Su exhaled slowly. So you were always going to disappear? Yes. Gu Cheng's jaw tightened. And now, I looked around. The white space was cracking, seams of something darker and deeper showing through. The system no longer has jurisdiction here, but if we move forward, there's no reset, no transmigration, no safety net, I said. Li Jing met my gaze. A real world, one that continues, he said. One where that won't force me to leave, I added. Gu Cheng's hand tightened. Good. The space split open. Not into light, into depth. A world that existed without oversight, without narrative correction, without an ending prepared in advance. The first thing I noticed was gravity. Real gravity. The kind that pulled at my bones, pressed my feet into solid ground, made breathing feel earned instead of granted. The sky was blue, excessively so. Clouds drifted without looping, without resetting. Li Jing stepped forward first. You carried us through our lives. Now we'll carry you through yours, he said. Lin Su smiled faintly. No missions this time. Gu Cheng didn't say anything. He simply pulled me with them. Li Jing kissed me first, decisive and unapologetic, as if sealing a decree. His hand rested at my waist, firm, grounding, claiming without ceremony. You're here, stay, he murmured against my lips. Lin Su didn't wait. His kiss followed immediately, warmer, messier. Hands sliding into my hair like he was afraid I'd vanish between breaths. I felt his laugh against my mouth, breath uneven, alive. I don't have to look back anymore. You're right here, he said softly. Then Gu Cheng. He didn't rush. He cupped my face, forehead touching mine, breath steady, eyes dark with something settled at last. No more leaving, he said. His kiss was slow, deep, inescapable. Not desperation, ownership. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding across lifetimes. As the false world collapsed behind us, I felt something loosen at last. For the first time, there was no system voice, no objective waiting to be completed, just continuation. And this time, I didn't disappear.